Yo, what's going on, guys? And today we're doing the 2021 NBA Draft recap. So let's get right into it and comment down below what were your biggest surprises, or what were your biggest disappointments, or who do you think were the biggest steals in this year's NBA Draft? Hit me down below in the comment section. Who do you believe those players were? So let's get right into today's video. Like, comment, and all that good jazz. So let's get right in today. So you know what's the interesting part about all of this is the fact that I think the first three picks we all knew were set in stone. That was hard to say. I mean, it is 1:30 in the morning. But Cade Cunningham, Jalen Green, Evan Mobley, we knew they were going there. Franchise cornerstone. Evan Mobley has a chance to be Chris Bosh, the Chris Bosh of our generation. Jalen Green looks like he's even more polished and skilled than Anthony Edwards was coming out of last year's draft. And Cade Cunningham's arguably the best prospect in the draft since maybe Anthony Davis, I think, or Karl-Anthony Towns. Now you got Scottie Barnes, who a lot of people like myself thought Jalen Suggs was going to go there. And I just want to say the first 5 picks were great picks. There's nothing wrong with those picks. Cade Cunningham, you're getting a guy all around. He's a great player. No flaws, just maybe the turnovers. Jalen Green, all he's got to worry about is his size and, his defense and just, his shooting splits and just getting better at drawing fouls and just polishing up his skill. Evan Mobley, just working on his three-point shot, becoming a better defender, being able to become more switchable, footwork, and putting on weight, and being able to, again, maybe facilitate and have some, not like ball handling skills, but do some stuff, kind of like at least be able to run some offense and average like 3 or 4 assists. Hopefully, that's like what you'd like. Scottie Barnes, he's the guy, everyone's calling Draymond Green, a more athletic Draymond Green, a guy who Nick Nurse is going to rebuild his shot. Nick Nurse, if you guys didn't know, invented the Nurse pill. He's like a legendary. I listened to his autobiography, like it's 8 hours long. I did it when I drive home to my parents, which is an 18-hour drive. I do nonstop, so I just believe Nick Nurse can fix any player's shot. He's just incredible. And Scottie Barnes is gonna lead that team. They also got David Johnson in the second round. So Malachi Flynn, Gary Trent, Fred VanVleet, and David Johnson and at the backcourt. And then you got Scottie Barnes at small forward and Pascal Siakam at the power forward with center, hopefully Chris Boucher, or maybe they sign and trade for Jared Allen somehow. That'd be pretty dope. Then Josh Giddey, I like the idea of Shea and Josh Giddey running the backcourt next to. I really believe that the Oklahoma City Thunder are saying screw regular centers. We're going to run, our center are going to be Jeremiah Robinson Earl. We're going to have Darius Baisley, Isaiah Robbie, Kenrick Williams, and they also drafted Trey Mann to join their point guard with Theo Maledon, probably in the backcourt. And then at small forward, they have Lou Dort and Alec Pokusevsky. I think they're going to revolutionize basketball with what they're going to do. Then Jonathan Kuminga, he's either going to be a trade asset or a guy that they're going to play 15 minutes a night while Moses Moody gets more minutes. I think they're going to play Moses Moody more than Jonathan Kuminga. Honestly, just because I think Jonathan Kuminga needs to work on his shot and just certain things before Steve Kerr will let him play more, or they'll leverage him in a trade asset. But Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody behind Andrew Wiggins and Klay Thompson is fantastic. And maybe Nico Mannion actually is a backup point guard this year for them. And they got a lot of talent there. Damian Lee, Jordan Poole, Eric Pascal. So, and the team looks good. I think the team right there, Golden State, will be easily back in the playoffs. Then you got Franz Wagner. I really, really like the idea of Franz Wagner and our boy Jalen Suggs just pairing up. You got Jalen Suggs, who's a phenomenal player, okay? He's a transcendent. He's going to make, yes, we have now Cole Anthony, Markelle Fultz, RJ Hampton, and our boy Jalen Suggs in our backcourt, which is phenomenal. I think Markelle Fultz or Cole Anthony will be the sixth man. It's going to be great. And then Terrence Ross is supposed to might be traded. And then you have Mo Bamba and Wendell Carter Jr. at the center spot. Power forward, probably going to be Jonathan Isaac, backed up by Chumo Keki. Franz Wagner at the small forward spot, maybe backed up by Terrence Ross to start the season. Who knows? I really like that. He's going to come in, be a good defender at first, like a plus defender at first, and hopefully he can figure out that three-point shot sooner rather than later. Either way, I think he'll be a career 40% shooter. Daveon Mitchell, best college perimeter defender last year, and he averaged like a little under 15 points a game, shot 45% from three. Yeah, he's 6 foot with no shoes on, and he has only a 6'1" wingspan, but I think he can be a poor man's Donovan Mitchell. A very, very poor man's Donovan Mitchell. Like the store brand of Walmart, like a great value version of Donovan Mitchell. And you got Zaire Williams. This was a reach, and the reason why it's a reach because they traded up to draft Josh Giddey, and because the Thunder lost out on Barnes, they moved to the next guy they thought was the highest on their list, and they got him, and New Orleans kind of crapped out, and they could have gotten Zaire Williams at 17, but he had a really inconsistent year at Stanford, and it wasn't his fault. It was because of COVID and stuff like that. So he's a guy who looks like he could be a two-way guy if he needs to put on 20 pounds at least. But he has the length and the ability to be a guy who can average 17 points, be sort of similar player as like Cam Reddish, I believe. Then you got James Bouknight. He's got long arms, and he shot up the draft boards, and I really thought he was going to be a top 10 pick from UConn. And you know what? He can play the guard or the wing spot. He's going to be a 40% three-point shooter. He's a guy who can start today. But I really like the idea of LaMelo Ball, Terry Rozier, James Bouknight off the bench, Miles Bridges, Gordon Hayward, the Martin twins as the small forwards. Then you have like the forwards rotation. Then you have PJ Washington, and they got, what was that, I believe? Was Jericho Sims the Hornets got? They got somebody, we'll talk about it at the end of the draft. They got a center at the end of the draft. I really like it. And they also got Mason Plumlee. So my girlfriend loves Mason Plumlee. That's her. I'm about to buy her like a bunch of jerseys of his. Then the Spurs reached with Joshua Primo. Maybe we're wrong, but he's going to have to spend at least a year, and I know they're fine with it, on the Austin Spurs, bulking up and figuring out the fundamentals. Maybe even 2 years. He's, kind of Bruno Caboclo, who's 2 years away from being 2 years away. Joshua Primo is 1 year from being a year away. So he's a 2-year project before I think he's NBA ready to at least be like 15 minutes or 20 minutes in a rotation. Then you got Chris Duarte. The Pacers said it. They were going to trade the pick if they couldn't get an NBA ready player. They got it in Chris Duarte. Golden State, 6'6". He's 6'6", almost 6'7". He has a 7'1" wingspan. Yeah, his shooting splits weren't great, but he took a lot of contested shots and made them, and that was right. Like, it was inefficient. Corey Kessler, 53% from the field, 19 points, 43% or 44% from three. He's ridiculous, and he showed he's a little bit more athletic than we thought he was. Okay, like he's not a terrible athlete. And he's going to be able to slide in, play shooting guard next to Bradley Beal and Denny Avdia. Denny Avdia will be the secondary ball handler, while Bradley Beal will probably also split ball handling duties with Roy Hichimura at the power forward and Thomas Bryant and Daniel Gafford splitting center duty. The Pelicans get Trey Murphy, who is Trevor Ariza 2.0. Okay, he needs to put on some weight, so he'll play the shooting guard, small forward spot right now, but once he bulks up, he can probably play the 2 to 4 position and guard 1 through 4. Trey Mann, Oklahoma City. I thought he was going to go in the second round. He's 6'5". He's got length. He's kind of like Theo Maledon, who they got last year, in the sense that he's a better shooter and scorer than Theo. Not as good as a passer, but they're both lanky defenders, and they're just building up a team with a lot of length. And also, I want to talk about the Rockets. Okay, I predicted the Thunder to draft Alperen Sengun and Usman Garuba because they were the polar opposites of each other. One's the best interior defensive big man in Usman Garuba, Taj Gibson 2.0 right now, while you had Alperen Sengun, who's the best interior offensive player, who's kind of like a mix of, like, he has Kevin Love UCLA body mixed with like a young Enes Kanter, not entirely Enes Kanter, because he's looking like he's stretched for be a good offensive rebounder and potentially have a good shot, but you know, he's never going to be a great shot blocker because he has a similar wingspan as his height, and he needs to get better at moving his hips and positioning himself and drop coverage to be a good rim protector. But they get the two polar opposites and bring them together, which I thought the Thunder were going to do, but the Rockets do it. I thought it was great. I technically predicted it, but with different teams, so I'm going to take credit on that. I also predicted Kai Jones falling. I had him going to 20 at the Hawks, but the Hornets trade back into the draft first round and snag Kai Jones as that slam guy for LaMelo to be throwing lobs in transition for. And so they get James Bouknight to help them with some shooting behind and a backup shooting guard behind Terry Rozier. And then you get Kai Jones and Mason Plumlee and Vernon Carey and Nick Richards to be your big man rotation. Didn't even have to go spend money in free agent. See, Jalen Johnson, you get right here. You were able to get Sharif Cooper in the second round. I told you guys Sharif Cooper wasn't a first round pick. And Jalen Johnson, right now, he could be a point forward, a secondary ball handler, really come off the bench and be the backup point guard. But really, he'll be like the guy who can help us run the second unit, a good defender, good ball handler, good passer, decent rebounder, kind of like a Kyle Anderson type player. The Clippers get Keon Johnson, who is kind of reminiscent of Hamidou Diallo, who played for the Thunders and was just traded to the Pistons, and he's a restricted free agency. He's going to be a guy who's going to be a terrible shooter for the first 2-3 years of his career, but once he starts to he's going to be a great defender and a great transition player, and going to probably average around like 9 to 12 points a game for his first year or so. And once he figures out how to draw fouls and get even better, he's going to be great. See how Diallo just played. Then the Pacers get Isaiah Jackson, who I truly believe is going to be a great, kind of like a better version of Nico Claxton, who's going to come in, swat shots, rim run, pick and roll, be in transition, catching lobs from, Malcolm Brogdon. I like it. And Domantas Sabonis can have him slash into the basket and set him up. Just told you guys, Usman Garuba, he's the best interior big man in this year's draft. He didn't work out with any teams because he's competing in the O word. I can't say that international sport competition or I'll get demonetized. So Usman Garuba, he played at Real Madrid. He's shown a willingness to work on his offensive game, and he can put the ball. He's not a bad dribbler. He just isn't good. He doesn't have any really good skill there. So hopefully Steven Stiles figures that out. Josh Christopher, he had averaged less than an assist a game. He literally has tunnel vision. He does not look for his teammates when he gets the ball, but he put up high teens and points, and he had 1.5 steals a game. So he looks like he could be a decent perimeter defender, but sometimes he's lackadaisical on defense. So hopefully he can get his mind right. Maybe him being a millionaire makes a difference. The Knicks get Quinn Grimes, who just blew up his stock. I go to KU, so I used to have, I was upset when Quinn Grimes left and he disappointed us, but he made it up, and he's a guy who can play shooting guard and the wing spot, and he's a good defender. He's going to be a 40%. Really, I could see him having a similar career as prime Courtney Lee. And then you have Bones Highland, who was awesome. So now the Nuggets have Monte Morris, Facundo Campazzo. When Jamal Murray comes back, Jamal Murray, Bones Highland, PJ Dozier, and I'm trying to think if they have anyone else in the guard rotation, but their guard, if they bring back Rivers, that's a really good guard room. Jaden Springer, he's more of a combo guard, even though he played point guard in college, and he's a good defender. He's a skinnier version of Dylan Brooks. I personally think he plays with the same bully ball mindset, and I think he could be a more efficient scorer and probably a better passer. And he's definitely a better ball handler. I really like him. Deyron Sharp, I didn't think he should have been drafted by the first round. He's just the best he's ever going to be is a backup center who averages 7 points or 9 points, 7 rebounds, maybe a block a game, and 2 to 3 assists a game at most. He's got good ball handling skills and good passing skills and rebounding and a high motor, but he doesn't have anything elite that makes you Santi Aldama is my favorite player in this draft from Loyola, Maryland. He averaged over 21 points a game, over 10 rebounds a game, over a 1.7 blocks a game, over a steal a game, shot 51% from the field, he made 2 threes a game, and shot 37%, I said. And the only other players that have numbers like that since 1992 to 93 were Tim Duncan, David West, Jason Thompson, Andrew Bogut, and Lamine Diane, and Santi Aldama. He's a guy who I think they draft. Supposedly, the Thunder were going to draft him at 32 and stash him in Spain for a few years, but Utah jumped ahead, drafted him, convinced him. Not Utah. Why did I say Utah? Memphis jumped ahead and drafted him because they're like, look, you're not going to go over to Spain. We're going to give you a 4-year guaranteed deal. Okay, even though we're a little crowded, we're going to figure it out. Maybe you spend a year in the G League. We'll put some PEDs in you, and you're going to be a god. He's my favorite player. He's going to be a star. Everybody's going to say, I didn't know about this guy. And they're going to be like, how did you know about him, Cyro? I was like, just because, like, this is my life. Then Isaiah Todd, I'm surprised. I really thought he was going to pull a Terrence Davis and tell people not to draft him and earn his shot in the summer league after not wanting to not be drafted in the lottery. He's a tweener. He wants to be a shot creator, but what he really needs to realize is the best thing he's going to be is a 3-and-D, small ball 5, and stretch 4. Jeremiah Robinson Earl, and also, he's a decent pick for the Wizards. Jeremiah Robinson Earl is part of my theory why the Thunder are saying no to true big men and are going super small ball with their tallest players being 6'8" to 6'9" with Darius Bailey, Jeremiah Robinson Earl, Isaiah Roby, and Kenrick Williams rotating at the center spot. Clippers get Jason Preston. He spent the past 2 years being Ohio University's leading scorer and also averaged 7 rebounds and 7 assists while doing it. Rokas Jokubaitis, it was traded in Knicks, and I predicted that. He's a similar player to Leandro Balomaro, as in he's a guy who probably will do the same thing, spend another year on Zalgiris. And he's a guy who's a secondary playmaker, who's a 3-level scorer, and has an all right length, who could be at plus defender on his best days. Herbert Jones, he's over here for the Knicks, who the Knicks got here. A guy who averaged the past 2 years a little under 10 points a game, 7 rebounds a game, a block a game, almost a little under 2 steals a game. While this year he finally improved to a little over 70% from the free throw line, 33 or 34% from 3. He's going to be a really good multi-positional defender who can guard 1 through 5. He's going to be great in the NBA. Then Miles McBride, another guy that I had them go in the first round. It was a guy who was all Big 12 defensive. I'm telling you, the Knicks love guys who can play defense and shoot and just do everything hard. Miles McBride, 6'2", plays defense hard. He's going to be a guy who's definitely going to average a steal a game. Sort of similar to Javon Carter, but I think he's a better scorer and a shot creator and definitely a better ball handler. So I think he's going to be a good NBA player who can play now. Then JT Thor, who went to the Hornets, another guy who, in the similar vein of Kai Jones, is a guy who can be a small ball 5 or a stretch 4. I think he's going to be really good. I think he's going to be fun. Then you have Ayo De Sumo, who was probably one of the better college players this year in all of the tournament, and he has the length, the athleticism, the defensibility, and he had over 300 attempts through his college career, have shot 35%, and he shot under 100 attempts this year at 39%, so he's not bad. Then Neemias Queta led the NCAA with 3.3 blocks per game, 97 total blocks this past year, and he's the best rim protector in the draft. He's a strong dunker, rim runner. I think he should have gone in the first round. If the Suns had kept their pick, I think they would have taken him. Jared Butler to the Jazz, phenomenal guy. I think the only reason he didn't go in the first round was the heart condition that scared people. Tenacious defender, won the national championship, averaged 16 points a game, shot 40% from 3. He's a baller, and he's going to be a Malcolm Brogdon type player. Joe Wieskamp, someone tell me how to say that. He is a better he's a similar player to Duncan Robinson, way more athletic than Duncan Robinson, a better defender than Duncan Robinson, and about 70% or 65% of the shooter that Duncan Robinson is right now. And I think he's going to be a steal, a guy who can average like 15 points a game and be a good perimeter defender. And you have Isaiah Livers, who is a stretch 4, small ball 5, who he's going to, shoot 40% from 3. He's going to be phenomenal for the Pistons. Then you have Greg Brown, who is going to be Jeremy Grant. And yeah, he's on the Blazers, but I think he's 3 or 4 teams away from being good like Jeremy Grant. 76ers and the Thunder didn't really get the rewards of their development in him. It wasn't until the Thunder and the Pistons that Jeremy Grant was actually like good. And I think that Greg Brown's the same thing. Kessler Edwards played at Pepperdine, which is PCA, Zoe 101, Pepperdine, Pacific Coast Academy, the set for it. He is sort of like Trey Murphy in the sense that they're like Trevor Ariza 2.0, except that he's older and maybe not as athletic. He's maybe like half a step less athletic. Guadalupe guy, Jean Bagan. Tell me if I said that right. Playing in Paris. He's a good stash option. Don't know much about him, but he seems like he'd be a 3-and-D guy. Delano Banton. He's a point forward from Nebraska. And he's nothing special, but he could be something for the Raptors if they can develop his shot. David Johnson, he improved to almost 39% this past year from 3 over a steal game, and he seems like he could be a good secondary like ball handler next to like Fred VanVleet or Gary Trent Jr. I really like that idea. It's not bad. And then you have Sharif Cooper, who he's a good ball handler and a great passer and a good scoring at the mid-range and inside. He's a terrible 3-point shooter, but he was a steal for the Hawks. I told you shouldn't have gotten the first. And then Zagorowski, who is actually Michael Carter Williams' brother, is probably one of the better shooters in this draft. He's great steal for the Nets. Felipe Petrushev, he's going to win multiple MVPs in the Euros. He's already won 1. He's probably not going to ever come over because he'll probably make more and play more in the Euro. BJ Boston to the Pelicans. And hopefully Willie Green can fix this guy and make sure we can see the actual 5-star recruit he was supposed to be. Luka Garza, maybe he can replace Mason Plumlee and play a similar role. Charles Bassey, he can shoot, jump, rebound really well. And, hopefully he can extend to 3-point range and his knees don't go to shit. He could be a really good backup for Joel Embiid. Sandro, he put up a year for Seton Hall. I didn't watch much of him. He didn't seem like the greatest defender, but he's a guy who could score in bunches for the Bucks once they get him accustomed to their schemes. Aaron Wiggins, they get another flyer. This is really where I want to hammer home my thought. They just want shooters and spacing and stuff. The Hornets get Scottie Lewis, who was really athletic, really freaking athletic. I don't know anything about this guy, Balza. He's a 7'1" guy from Florida State. I didn't even know about him in the pre-draft. Jericho Sims, 7'3" wingspan, 6'10". He's gonna leap out the gym. I think he's gonna be very reminiscent to. They compared him to holy crap. I don't know. He has huge hands. He's just gonna be a giant jumping lob threat for years to come, and people are gonna be like, "How did he slip to almost the end of the draft?" Rayquan Gray, he's 260 pounds right now, 6'8", and he shot 26% from 3. If he can get down to 250 and shoot at least 34-36%, he can be a way better version of PJ Tucker combined with Jay Crowder. And Giorgio Kalansky, Gus, is never going to come over. He was popular as a teenager, and he was in the draft last year. I didn't even know he was going to be in this year's draft, so somehow he was in this. And these are all the guys who went undrafted and where they're signing. I'm done, guys. Peace out.